Welcome everybody to Better Together Conversations, and I'm so glad that you're joining me today. Excited about our guest that I'll introduce in just a second. But these conversations are all about us doing just what we said, being better together. It's a value here at Christ Place. And here's what I know, that we really can't be better together if we're not willing to listen to one another. And so that's what this is about. This is not a forum for debate. It's a chance for us to really listen and hear what's going on in each other's lives. So thanks for joining me. Today I have the one and only, and I'm super pumped about this, Miki Montgomery. And so Miki, it's great having you here with us.
Thank you.
So you're an educator as well, right? So you've got your foundation in your faith, but you've also been trained in early childhood?
Yep. You know, early childhood development, early childhood education, it's been my life for 28 years. What a lot of people know is that, you know, the quickest development of the brain, besides when the baby is in the womb, and besides, you know, when the fetus is growing in the womb, the quickest development time of the brain is ages birth through age 5. And so there's a lot of core memories happening during that time.
Big time.
Okay. And so when I go back to what I was talking about before, depending on who your parents are, grandparents, what your family culture is, what your environment is about, those memories are going to sit with you your entire life, whether you want them or not. Now, some people, depending on what they've been, you know, brought up to believe, will get to ages 15, 20, 22, and they're able to start thinking for themselves, and they're able to start questioning, you know, their upbringing. Yeah. Is this a compassionate upbringing? My parents are saying that we are Christians, but yet they hate Black people, you know? They're really, really upset about Black Lives Matter, or they're really, really upset about, you know, police brutality, or, you know, I hate doing this. I'm sorry, but it really is just
That's
like
why you
this
keep
side
saying,
or the
can
other.
we just get to the table?
I know.
Right?
It's like, it really feels like we're just getting further and further and further apart, instead of doing all of these things that are supposed to be bringing us closer and closer and closer together. Right. And the enemy is having a heyday with that right now. He is loving it.
Well, he's all about division.
He's all about division. So what he knows about you, your individual upbringing, your individual first 5 years of brain development, your individual environmental influences growing up, he's taken that right now. And he's trying to make you choose, kind of, sort of, at least how I feel, choose a side. Choose a side. You know, this means something to you. This is your core beliefs, right? Do you really want to go over here and understand them?
So we come into the conversation already defensive.
We do.
For what we've already been, whether it's part of our childhood or not, where we stand on certain issues.
That's how I feel. And even I do, but I have to step back. You know, if I'm coming in defensive because, you know, I feel like I'm being attacked, or somebody says something or does something that hurts me because it's not my opinion and it's not my side and it's not my experience.
It's really good, Miki.
I have to step back, and I have to remind myself that just because that's their experience doesn't mean that that's my experience. So why do I need to argue it? Why do I need to argue it?
Yeah.
What am I getting out of arguing it? Or will I get more of, hey, do you want to go for coffee? I know this is really awkward because you just called me a name. But
and you've done that.
Oh yeah, absolutely, I have.
So
Still doing it.
You're saying, let's come to the table, let's have hard conversations, and then you're saying, but be mindful in the midst of your hard conversations, you have to emotionally sometimes take a step back.
You do.
And we don't want to react.
No. Nope.
It's really good.
I don't think we're very good, especially with the social media, the way that it is. We see something that's really painful, and we're quick to type our response, instead of sit back and think about it and empathize. Why does that person think that way? I wonder what experiences that person has had in order for that person to feel really strongly, or, you know, really strongly about this.
Man, that's really good.
We don't do that. We're ready to defend ourselves. We're ready to defend our upbringing, our culture, our Christian faith, what we believe that Christian faith to be for some of us. Yeah. Which is also, you know, different.
I think there's a tendency amongst Christians to assume there's only one way to achieve a goal, when really you could achieve a goal multiple different ways.
Absolutely.
We can all care about refugees, but have a different idea of how our country should be processing and inviting them in, right? But we tend to want to say, well, those people don't love them like I love them, or vice versa, right? We can do the same thing when it comes to some of the issues of our nation right now.
Absolutely.
And when it comes to achieving equality, we may have different means of getting there,
Absolutely.
but that doesn't mean we disregard someone's story.
No, but that's what's happening.
Get
We're
to the
so-
table.
yeah.
Church, get to the table.
Yeah.
Let's talk. That's what these
Yes.
conversations
Get
are
to the
even all
table.
about.
Get to the
Yes.
table. Yes. Yes.
Amen.
Hard conversations, things that make you uncomfortable to talk about because you don't know enough about them. And so you don't know if you should talk about them. Find
Yeah.
somebody you trust
Yep.
that you can ask those hard questions about, because there's so many people out there right now that's like, I want to understand. I don't know how. I don't get it. I'm seeing this. I've had people say, if I support Black Lives Matter, if I support Black Lives, am I not supporting the police? No. You don't have to not support anybody just to support one person or the other.
Boy, say that again, Miki.
If I support Black Lives Matter, if I support Black Lives, does it mean I'm not supporting the police? Absolutely not. I'm supporting the police. I'm not supporting deadly force being used for low-level crimes. I'm not supporting, police who are not being trained in a matter of what to do in a situation before they decide to use deadly force or hurt somebody or kneel on somebody's neck.
Okay, let's dig down a little bit on this for a second, okay?
Because I know this is another topic.
This is another topic because right now, and I don't think there's necessarily one group that's responsible for this, but there is this polarizing taking place where you're either for the police or you're for Black Lives Mattering. And by the way, I want to clarify. There is a movement, Black Lives Matter.
Right.
But there's also an organization of Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
And not everybody who supports the movement supports the values of Black Lives Matter. And people get hung up on the semantics.
Yes.
And they miss the more important messaging that, Black Lives Matter because for too long in America they haven't.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I want to make sure that's clear.
Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah. So, but this idea of Black Lives Matter, there are people say, well, Blue Lives Matter. Or how about this? You've probably heard this before. How do you feel with this when people say, well, all lives matter?
Well, I kind of have to, again, step back.
Okay.
Because there's been times where I've shared what it means. If you're saying all lives matter underneath somebody who's, posting or against somebody who's saying Black Lives Matter, it's almost like you're trying to, back and forth, all lives matter, Black Lives Matter, all lives matter, Black Lives Matter. Okay, we clearly know that all lives matter. Those of us who know that all lives matter, we're not debating that. And I know that other people have seen all lives matter, but Black lives are the ones that right now, currently, that's, being discussed and, all of this, the reason why it's happening, Black lives are the ones that are in danger. And so, that's why there's that, fight back and forth.
So it's a little bit hard for you and for probably any person of color when people minimize Black Lives Matter.
That's what it feels like.
By saying all lives matter. It's like you're minimizing the fact that, you don't have to teach your kids to not put their hood up when they're walking down the street.
Thank you, because I've had to teach mine that.
You don't have to have a talk with your kids about when, you're pulled over by the police. Make sure your hands are on the steering wheel or on the dashboard. I mean, you don't have to have those a lot of Caucasians don't have those conversations.
They don't, and they admit to that. I've had a lot of,
yes, all lives matter, but don't in understanding that minimize that right now. We're trying to bring justice right now, right?
Yeah. So it feels like people are purposely, when people post that, even after all of the education of trying to explain why we're saying Black Lives Matter, it feels like when people post all lives matter, they're purposely trying to combat and minimize what we're trying to say about the Black Lives Matter movement and about the differences between Black lives and all lives.
Yeah.
It feels like that.
Yeah.
And so it's hard sometimes, even after 3 or 4 weeks, or heck, for me, after 46 years, where I've poured my heart out about the stories that have happened to me and my family, my boys and stuff all the time, for somebody to, still come at me and say, yeah, but all lives matter. So, you're not a good Christian, or you're not a female of God, if you're not understanding that all lives matter. Well, actually, I do understand that, but, I told you yesterday, I'm not good with parables and the verses, but when Jesus tended to his flock of sheep and he got the whole flock safe, in the woods where he knew that there was no danger, and there was one sheep that was not with them, that was left out there, he went and he helped the sheep that was, out there. And I don't even mean do this. I want to do this, actually. I don't want to do this or this. He helped the sheep that was out there in danger.
And he got that sheep that was out there back to the table.
Back to the table.
And he rejoiced.
Where we all are. And he
rejoiced. And the fact that he rejoiced for the one didn't mean he didn't love the others.
Exactly. Or this one over there, or that one over there, or that over
really
there.
Good. Yeah, you could preach it. You know that right there. That's
I hope
powerful.
I am right now.
Yeah, you are. You are preaching. Yes. And I love it. I love it. This was really important to you. For some reason, you didn't seem like this was minimizing, but this idea of blue lives mattering, because they do matter to you.
They do. Absolutely.
And I know there's a lot of police right now that are demoralized.
Yeah.
Because they feel like in some ways they're even being characterized by a few bad apples.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? I know you have a relationship. You really respect what the Lincoln Police Force has been doing. So I don't know. Can you just speak to us a little bit about that? How do we support our police in the midst of also protesting injustice?
Well, Lincoln by far has had some of the most peaceful protests for weeks and weeks on end compared to the rest of the nation right now.
Right.
Yes, there were moments over the first weekend, where riots and stuff were happening, which I don't condone at all. But by far, the reason why Lincoln has had some of the most peaceful protests that have been approved by our law enforcement and have been approved by our chief of police is because I believe power trickles down from the top, and he has, ever since I've known, trained our police department on how to not see color on site. There's been a training. There's a 6-week training that I know of, as a matter of fact, that a Black male leader in our city does for the police department, that our chief of police and him have gotten together to make sure that situations like what happened to George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery, well, Ahmaud Arbery was not the police, but situations that have happened, when it comes to police brutality, he's working at not having those situations happen in our community.
That's good.
So I absolutely support him. I've talked to him probably 3 or 4 different times, and some of them during the protests, where I've gone up to him. People have shouted at him, really, they've cussed at him, and I've gone up to him and I said, you know what? Thank you. I know what you've been doing. I've taken the time to know what he's been doing behind the scenes so that our police community, yes, we had some instances happening where, fear on this side caused the riots. It caused people to get hurt. But again, that dissipated after 2 or 3 days because the police department and the mayor of our city said, you know what? As long as you peacefully protest, we understand why you want to do this.
So really big shout out of encouragement that our police department here in our community is really working hard at trying to take off biases, show restraint.
Absolutely.
And we be a bridge to the community.
Yeah. So stop. So we here, I know there's still a lot of people angry, and there's probably some people that aren't going to agree with me, especially some of our young people who think that they need to get in, the face of our police and shout in their face.
Yeah.
You don't need to do that. They're doing their job.
Yeah, that's good.
They are not the police officers who are in jail, who are being charged, who are being tried for killing Black lives that didn't need to be killed. You are mad, but it's the same as, a police officer coming at me, or it's the same as, I mean, it doesn't matter who it is. It's the same as anybody coming at me and saying, I'm mad at you because you're a female of color, you're a woman of color, and you know what I'm saying? You fit in with all these other people of color that are protesting for this Black Lives Matter stuff, and I don't agree with it, so I'm going to come in your face and I'm going to yell at you because you're a person of color and you're standing for it.
Wow.
It doesn't make sense to do that to our officers. It doesn't.
The very thing we're protesting against, we're now doing to a whole nother people group.
But we're doing the same thing to them that we're upset for thinking that some officers, a handful, well, actually it's more than a handful, have done to our people. So so now we've got officers and law enforcement families that are very much so fearing for their, family members that are in law enforcement.
Yeah.
Because they're getting, treated... What's what I'm looking for? They're taking the place, or people are making them take the place for the officers that we're really mad at.
Right, which is usually what happens. It usually takes a few that kind of eventually can change people's opinions
Yeah.
about a whole group, which is not fair. It's not right.
It's not.
We
It's
have to
not.
fight to believe the best, hope the best, especially if they're brothers and sisters in Christ.
Yes.
That's really non-negotiable for us.
Yeah. Are you going to invite him to the table with his uniform on? Yeah.
Right on.
Are you going to invite him to the table with his uniform off? Yes.
Either way.
Are you going to invite me to the table? I hope he invites me to the table with his uniform on or off too, and
Yes.
sees me for me too.
Amen.
Is what people
Yeah.
of color on the other side are saying.
Yeah.
But does it help for us to do the same thing to them that we feel that they're doing to us?
Yeah. We talked about this. There is such a tendency, though, to want a physical devil.
Yeah.
So we want to say, point the finger at the police.
Yep.
We want to point the finger at, some people of color.
Right.
And we want someone we can crucify.
Yes.
And the truth is, we got to look within first.
We do.
It's got to start with us.
Yeah. Just one being, one heart, one soul, right here.
Yeah.
Because you have that influence on your circle of friends or your family circle.
Yeah. So good.
Right here.
It's right here.
Center yourself again in compassion. Center yourself in I see that word over and over just popping up.
This is a big heart to you. This is big just about compassion.
It really
is about
is compassion.
Matter of fact, you've said to me that you don't feel like this is as much a political issue as it is right now a moral heart issue.
Yes. Yes. But again, the enemy is loving how divided we are making ourselves right now by making it a political issue or making it a black or white issue or blue issue. He is loving it. And we are also not being very mindful of what we're feeding our brains and feeding our hearts when we're reading, this side online and this side online and that side online.
Yeah.
Are you coming back to the table where, is this online?
Come on.
Is that online? Is this what you're reading?
What are you
first
listening
before
to
you
most?
respond?
Right.
What are you listening to most? Because what you're listening to most is what's feeding you.
Yeah, boy.
I'm guilty of it too. I have to, again, step back.
I disengage from the media quite a bit because I know when I get in the pulpit, I really don't want to have all those different sound bites, whether it's from a progressive media news outlet or a conservative media news outlet. I don't want those in my head. I really want, and I'm not always there, but I really want, I want to be doing my best to have a lens of Scripture that starts in Genesis chapter 2, talks about how we're made in the image of God. And when it started, we were one race. We're the human race.
Yes.
And everybody is an image bearer. And when we understand that, to devalue them is to devalue God Himself.
Yes.
So, man, I love talking to you. You and I, we could just spend some time talking about this. Any last thoughts you want to say to your church?
Well, first of all, I appreciate being able to have this platform to have a hard conversation. The fact that this church is not shying away from this topic, that's not sweeping it under the rug, because it's an uncomfortable topic.
Right.
I want to say thanks from the bottom of my heart for that, first of all. And lastly, just besides the message that I want people to have when it comes to compassionately responding or empathizing or just listening to somebody else, I know uncomfortable is hard, but now is the time to be okay with being uncomfortable and having these hard conversations or learning how to have hard conversations or just even, trusting that maybe a different view could educate you in a way that you're closed off on being educated, so that we can change the cyclical ignorance and systemic racism, systematic racism. I know all these terms people don't like to say. I mean, people don't even like to say the word racism. You can't be afraid to say these terms. You can't be afraid to talk out loud about these terms. You can't keep pushing these away like this doesn't matter to you. It really is affecting all of us right now. Yeah, and that's one of the things I hope, Miki, that you're sensing from your church is that we don't want to just go back into the background of sameness and do business as usual. I think that's why a lot of people are upset right now too, because it's not going back as quickly as they thought it would, like a lot of other, topics or things that come up in the news and just kind of flutter away because there was a huge amount of support at the very beginning of this.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, enough is enough. All right, stop. Black Lives Matter. Okay,
I think there's a fear that the political parties are going, it's election year.
Yeah.
That they're going to use this.
Yeah.
And they don't want to play into the hand of one of those platforms that they don't have the same values of. And so I think they're feeling the tension of, man, how do I keep standing up for this without giving credibility to a platform that I'm uncomfortable with?
Yeah.
So there's that weird tension. And I think what we can't do, though, regardless of what we choose to do as individually, we can't minimize or be passive.
No.
And so it is making people uncomfortable.
It is. It is. So we need to figure out how to be okay with being uncomfortable right now.
And I think
so that
that's
we can
something
get to the point of comfortability.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So church, come to the table.
Come
let's
to the
have
table.
hard conversations. Let's do some deep soul searching. And let's not make anyone our enemy on this.
Yeah. Find somebody you trust out there. There are people out there that want to actually have a conversation with you at the table and that don't want to fight with you. There are
That's
people
really
out
good.
there.
It's really good. I'm thinking too, when we see something that elicits a lot of emotion, we probably should ask ourselves, okay, why is this causing so much emotion within me?
Yep.
And do some self-reflection.
You might have to go back a few years, or 10 or 15 or 20.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of
That's really
times our
good.
emotions are there because of experiences, good or bad experiences that we had.
Well, thank you
Yes.
for being with me. In just a moment, I'm going to turn to that camera, but I wanted you to first see it in my eyes. It's been a joy to sit down with you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your honesty, your vulnerability, and for being a role model, to your family, your kids, and to our community and here in our church.
Thank you.
Let's come to the table.
Come to the table.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say to Christ Place Church, let's recognize that people aren't the devil. That all too often we get myopic and we get focused on an issue we feel so strongly about that we end up driving home the point while driving away the person. And I want to echo what Miki said. Man, we want people coming to the table, and let's let Jesus rule, not our opinion. And that's going to happen when we have a chance to express our hearts. So thanks for joining me in this Better Together conversation, and much thanks to Miki and all of her contribution to today's time together. So God bless everybody. And know this, no matter what you're going through, man, Christ is here, and you, my friend, are not alone.